Thanks a lot, Arun, and a very good evening to you all. And thanks, Robin, for joining us from Berlin. In fact, it is in fact a wonderful session, because we're talking about going digital. And if we have learned one thing over the last 2 years, I think it has just been about how digital and technology has disrupted our lives. And we keep now hearing a lot more about how digital transformation as a process. I mean, we hear it as a word, and it's rather a process, and it's an oft heard word now, that we need to possibly understand as corporate leaders and CEOs. So in fact, we keep reading about companies like Levi's retraining all their employees on AI, and we wonder really what this is all about and how analytics, data, and of course digital transformation journey. What is the process that we need to achieve and undertake at this point of our corporate life? So essentially, the world is really moving through a disruptive age, and of course, understanding digital transformation is a very, very appropriate session. And we have none other than a wonderful a digitalist thought leader, Mr. Robin Jose. In fact, he's in fact one of India's top 25 digitalist thought leader in one of the awards, and also an analytics leader of the year. So we can't get a better speaker than Robin here. So thanks a lot, Robin, for taking your time off and being here for TiEcon to share your experience. I'll just give a quick brief of Robin. Robin is actually the Chief Data and Analytics Officer. I guess this is a designation which is also quite new, because this has not been an existing designation. That I guess it's something that has happened in the last couple of years. And I think he's, in fact, the Chief Data Analytics Officer of Wefox Group. In fact, when I was trying to understand about Wefox is a unicorn right now based out of Berlin. And in fact, they've raised about 650 million recently over the last few years, and has got a headcount of over 1,200 people. And primarily into insurtech, that was a new word, which is, in fact, in India, we call it fintech, but I think they specifically work on the area of insure technology, and a very, very spontaneously growing company in Germany. He's been on the senior leadership team. And in fact, Robin's background comes from that of an engineering background with management, and has worked extensively in Siemens and Cisco. Primarily, he's pretty much known for scaling high-performance teams, and he's a strong evangelist for digitalization. And he's known for building innovative product and platforms powered by data and digital transformation. So I would not want to be standing between you and Robin. And over to you, Robin, for the next few minutes of your insights on digital analytics. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajay. Yeah. I've shared my slides. Can everyone see it?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We don't have much time. I'll try to do my best in the next 15 minutes to talk about the possibilities of going 100% digital. But before doing that, I also want to talk a little bit about Wefox. I understand neither me or Wefox would be that familiar with Kochi. Ajay was quite kind to talk very nicely about me. I hope I'll do my best to live up to all the things that he said about me. But one thing I want to highlight, I'm also from Kochi, and I would have preferred to attend this in person. Unfortunately, I could not because I had some challenges with my flight and all, but I'll be there in December, and I'm really looking forward to be back in my home country and my hometown. But I want to also talk a little bit about Wefox. So Wefox started in late 2015. We celebrated our 6th anniversary this October. And for a 6-year-old company, we've grown tremendously well. As Ajay mentioned, we raised $650 million at a valuation of about $3 billion. This May, making us one of the largest fintechs in Europe. Yes, insurtech is a very specialized area of fintech, and we kind of want to specialize in that area, and that's why we call it as insurtech, focusing on insurance. But from a Wefox perspective, we feel that that's a start. Our revenues grew about 70% in 2019, and a whopping 152% in 2020. And although I cannot make any official statements about 2021 in terms of revenue because they're not audited yet, I can surely say that we are still keeping up and maybe improving on our remarkable growth rate. But I'm not here to talk about Wefox, right? I'm here to talk about digitization. And that's where probably the second part comes in, the automation rate. One of the biggest reasons why we grew so fantastically in the last 6 years, right, for a company that celebrated 6 years, and grew to, as Ajay mentioned, 1,200 people, is our automation. In fact, insurance as an industry in Europe has an average 10 to 15% automation. This is some of the best companies, the best industry standards with respect to automation. And we are about 80%. This makes us significantly more profitable and much faster. And a lot of this was achieved because we are a 100% digital company. And as a person who's responsible at the executive level for data and analytics and AI, I take particular pride in the fact that this is data analytics, AI, and digitization is what helped Wefox become this powerful company as it is. Our growth story would have been virtually impossible without digitization. We built a fully digital business from the ground up and automated every part of it using various technologies. And this happened when many of the big players like Allianz and AXA and Generali, these are some of the biggest in the world, and they're from Europe, right? They have like 100 billion plus in revenues, and they're struggling with digitization. And this gives us tremendous opportunities. It's a true David versus Goliath scenario. Because we are 100% automated, we could price better, we could run more efficiently, and we could, more importantly, provide simple, efficient, and very easy workflows to our customers who they love it. So today, I'm going to talk about this part. I'm going to skip the rest of the slides. As I mentioned, this is not about Wefox. This is about digitization. And I'm going to talk about my experience in building this, in working in this company and building this 100% digital for Wefox as being the #1 digital insurance provider for Europe. So let's move on. Let's start with the basics, right? When we think about basics of digital transformation, what comes to mind? I think about this from the perspective of different maturity levels. The first stage is what I call as cloud computing and data analytics. Now, cloud computing is a given, right? If your frame is not adopting it, ask why. As of 2021, there's no reason for anyone to be running anything on on-prem or private clouds, unless you happen to be a Google or Amazon, and you have your own huge efficient clouds. The cost of CapEx investments are just not worth it, and you're leaving money on the table. That's the first and foremost thing that I'm saying. The second is data analytics. You should know the data, and you should be able to really build insights from the data. If you can't understand what features or what products your customers want, or predict where the demand is coming from, or even understanding how your competitors are performing, you're essentially running blind. And in this age of digital marketing, if you're not using it, right, you have no visibility with respect to your customers. So data and analytics is a given. These are what we call as fundamentals, right? Without this, you really cannot be a digital company. Now you covered the basics, and then you can get into the next maturity level. The first is automation, using things like RPA, robotic process automation, or other technologies. Or it could even be using things like machine learning or AI. Because in the end, artificial intelligence is about intelligent automation. We are really looking at the capabilities or the work that is done by a person, and then we are saying, how can we automate it? How can we make it better? How can we make it an automated task? And once you've covered the second one, which I call as, this is where your company is a truly digital company, then you can think about the extras and the specials and the USPs. For example, you start thinking about edge computing. How can you do all, how can you move a lot of your tasks on smart devices, maybe phones, maybe something else? You start thinking about digital twins. A digital twin is a virtual representation that serves as a digital counterpart to a physical object or a process within your company. They started as mainly in terms of the industrial companies, when they started, for example, aviation, when they wanted to have a digital twin of an engine for monitoring and diagnostic purposes. But now it's used pretty much everywhere, like PLM for services and monitoring. And finally, IoT. Back in Cisco, so I was in Cisco, I worked in Cisco from 2008 to 2014. And during this time, Cisco was really pioneering Internet of Everything, or Internet of Things. And now it's really mainstream. And many companies actually use IoT as kind of what is their USP when it comes to competition. Okay, now we looked at the key aspects or the basics of digitization, but there are some principles, or what I would say as top 3 things that we need to focus on when we think about digital transformation for a company. And we'll look at that in the next few slides. First and foremost, the question, or should I really do digital transformation, is already answered. I would say it's very well established. The content on the right side is basically from 2017, where they show how fast India was growing when it comes to digitization. This is from McKinsey, right? And again, this is 2017. And we were one of the fastest transforming digital economies of the world. And in 2021, we are actually #1. We actually beaten China to take the #1 position, to be the largest digital economy in the world. So the question of, should I really make my business, or if somebody comes and says, hey, I have a legacy business, and should I really digitize my business, is no longer valid. Hopefully nobody's asking that question at all, right? But if they're asking a question, the answer to that is obvious, and that's yes. Even if you're a plumber, and your work is entirely physical, you still need to have a social media presence at least, because then you can sell your services better in the gig economy sides, and make much more revenue streams. So there's absolutely no excuse for not focusing on digital. But then again, I guess I really do not have to mention this in India. In 2021 alone, you have nearly, on an average, 3 companies go to a unicorn status every single month of 2021 in India. That's outside US. This is remarkable, right? This is, nowhere, whether it's UK or Germany, we didn't have this kind of growth in the startup world. And all of them, almost all of these companies, are either digital companies or enabling digitization. So the value from that perspective is already well established. Okay, there's some issue with the slide content, so I'll probably just, sorry about this, but one of the other things that I want to really talk about is it's all about the execution. Many times I had conversations with the CEOs or the CIOs or CTOs of mid-sized companies who needs help with digitization or are just frustrated with the digitization. And when they have these concerns, they mostly talk about how long does it take, or how much it costs. And they always complain that it's frustrating because it takes more time, or it takes much longer, it takes much more cost than they originally thought it to be. And mostly they tell me, we have a problem with the digital transformation. And my answer to them almost always is the same. No, you don't. You don't have a problem with digital transformation. You have a problem with execution. It just happens to be in the area of digital transformation. In other words, whenever they have problems with digital transformation, what they should really be focusing on is product line management and planning, having good processes, or an agile or lean approach in terms of going and executing that digital transformation. The final part is we need to remember the basics, especially when it comes to the digital transformation. Why are we making a digital transformation? The digital transformation, the purpose of it is to provide better experiences and services to your customers and your stakeholders. If you don't provide it, somebody else will, and then you will lose your customers. Number 2, if you really want to provide the digital experience to your customer, you have to adopt it to yourself. If you're running a conventional company using conventional tools and using conventional office hours of 9 to 5, you will struggle big time in the new economy, because in the new economy, there's no difference between an office and a home. Those I would say those, it's merged now together. And I already talked about data. That's number 3, monetized data. There's no point in gathering data if you can't monetize it. It's like a miser amassing tons of money and never using it until he dies. The data has to be meaningful to your business in giving you better returns, in reducing your cost, in opening new business models. So just go back and look at the data that you collect. And if you don't use data for any of these means, if it's not bringing money or revenues to your business, ask why. Either change it or stop collecting it, because hopefully you're not wasting your time in terms of doing this. So this is important that we monetize our data. All right. That's enough for the current. I also realized that I'm in a group of entrepreneurs. I'm one as well. I had some attempts at startups before joining Wefox. And what would be a meeting with entrepreneurs if you really don't talk about what 100% digital means? To really think about digital future, we need to start thinking from the past. Because what I'm going to talk now is about what is the possibility of going 100% digital. And to do that, and if we don't establish that with kind of like a connect to the past, it might sound a little bit too good to be true. So let's look at our past, right? So start thinking from 2011. Could we have imagined we could have had a grand virtual meeting like this, with so many people attending both online and offline in a hybrid way? Even WhatsApp was still there, actually. It launched in 2009, but it never had the kind of popularity and usage that we have right now. I'm pretty sure none of you had your school groups, alumni group, or office group, or whatever other groups that you have in WhatsApp, just like we have right now. So with that in mind, let's just think about what the future would look like. I would immediately say the future of digital is some form of a metaverse. Now, the name of metaverse might not be that new anymore, thanks to Facebook changing its name to Meta and claiming a stake on the metaverse already. Due to Facebook, or I should really say Meta, metaverses have captured the imagination of many already. But let's explore that in a little bit of detail, and let's try to understand what it really means in terms of the evolution of where we are with respect to digitization and where we are going. So we talked about evolution, right? So let's start there. Just like how we evolved from monkeys to sentient, intelligent humans, our communications have also went through a lot of dramatic change in the past 1,000 years. Let's start with, start with what's on the bottom, right? So some form of communication that we can think about what had existed in thousands of years back is the ancient Egyptian, or what happened in even Indian cultures, like hieroglyphics that's shared among some kind of tablet form. From there, we invented alphabets, and then we went on to have a printing press, and then we started newspapers, and then we went on to radios, and then to TVs. The video killed the radio, to the radio star and everything, and to internet, and hopefully we'll get into metaverse. Now in 2021, I sit in my home. I don't have a newspaper subscription. It's a passe, and it's slow, and it's not kind to the trees. I don't have a conventional TV or cable, but I have Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu. But you know what's surprising? If you think about it, half of those changes that we mentioned really happened in the past 30 years. It's really amazing if you think about it. So let's start with TV. Doordarshan has officially started in 1959. I'm not kidding. It started in India in 1959, but it took a long time to be really a common platform. DD Malayalam started in 1985, but it's practically 1990s when we could say TVs officially started in India. Cable TV started in 1992, and then you actually had a choice in terms of what you could watch. So can you imagine this entire spectrum of things? A lot of things happened accelerated way in the last 30 years. With that, can you think about what will happen in the next 10 years? Right? How much of exponential growth we will have, how much we will change in terms of what we will communicate. Okay, so that's enough build up. we talked about metaverse. So what really is the metaverse? The metaverse is a physical and virtual connecting together and interacting, crossing environments. It's about things like virtual reality or augmented reality. The metaverse will never be off. It's a living thing, just like the internet today. The concept of metaverse is that you're not looking at the internet. You're not searching in the internet. You're inside it. You're living inside the metaverse. And that's hence the name verse as in universe. So it's when you're a living person inside this universe called metaverse in an alternative world or a digitized version of the real world. Think of everything that you do now, and you can do that inside the metaverse. Let's start with a few things on that. Entertainment. You want to attend a social function, you can. Currently, think about something like a celebrity event, right? So let's start with a Filmfare Awards or whatever is the latest fancy movie awards or something like that that happens right now, and how you attend it. Well, if you are a connected, well-established, influential person, you would probably get an invite and you would attend it in person. The rest of the millions of people attend that passively via TV. Now, what if you could do that in a very interactive way? Now, my 9-year-old son and 12.3 million other people who are playing Fortnite attended a live, interactive Ariana Grande musical event thanks to Fortnite this year. That was one of the earliest metaverse events. For him, it was way better than watching TV because it was not just passively watching. You could actually be connecting to so many other people and interacting with them. How about business? You could attend a virtual video call, or you could attend a virtual video call right now. This is what we are doing right now. But how about your avatar walking into a virtual meeting room and attend that in person? I don't have too much time, so I'll just quickly go to the next one. But seriously, if we are in this world and that world is near, very near, we have endless amounts of opportunities. And some of those opportunities are already here in terms of the finance and the markets. What we have in terms of decentralized finance, what we call as DeFi, and NFTs, non-fungible tokens, because a lot of the currency in that world, in that virtual world, which actually connects to the reality, is happening via non-fungible tokens and a virtual market, which is based on the concept of cryptocurrency. This is my last slide. And I actually want to quote from William Gibson, where he said, the future is here. It's just not very evenly distributed. The entrepreneurs, and I just don't mean IT startups here. Anyone who sees an opportunity in the future and goes on and grabs it is an entrepreneur. Even if they're just a one person who is doing some physical work, like I said, like a plumber, doesn't matter. You're still an entrepreneur. And these are the people who put $100 in Bitcoin when it launched and have millions now from that $100. These are the people who started their own software as a service firm in 2012 with their small savings in southern India and have listed that company for billions in New York Stock Exchange. These are the future stars that are sitting in this virtual conference room. And if I could inspire at least one person in the future of going 100% digital, then I believe that I've done my job. Thank you. It was short, but it was very rewarding to be here talking to you. It's an honor for me to be speaking in an event in a city that I was born and spent most of my childhood. I want to thank everyone in Thai for the opportunity. I don't know if you have time for questions, but if you don't, I'm happy to be connected in LinkedIn for any additional questions you have.
Thank you, Robin. I guess it was a very, very, very interesting, insightful discussion that I think we've had. Primarily, I think this would probably need an hour at least to really explain what you're talking out here, because it's indeed a very, very deep topic. And I feel you've really touched upon everything what you need to know in digitization of the business in very little time. I think you've talked about the digital universe. I mean, the metaverse. I mean, that was a very most simplistic version I've heard about metaverse. So, for a normal person to understand what it means to them, I guess that's the most simplified version we could hear from you. So thanks a lot for that. And the requirement of data and how data can be, utilized and used and analyzed and automated. I think this really brings us a lot of insights, and India being 90% digital was an excellent insight that I think we could gather from it. So since we're running out of time, I'll just take a few questions. I think we have hardly 1 more minute to go. I have a question, but before that, there are a few questions from the audience which I would like to pose. One is from Mr. Santosh Tannikat. He's asking whether digital is also in insurance tech. Is that going to be a competition to you in the international market? So it's primarily the company called Digit, which is into insurance tech. Is it going to be a competition for you, for your company Wefox in the international market? I'm sure that you would understand about Digit already.
Thank you. I don't particularly know about Digit, but there are a lot of insurtech companies, and we generally feel that the more, the better. The reason being, in the end, it's all about the customer, right? And the more insurtech companies are out there, the more people who are digitizing insurance, the better it's for the customers.
So thanks a lot, Robin. I think we've overshot our time by 2 minutes, so maybe we'll have to go to the next session. Thank you very much. We would really love to see you and interact with you in Cochin. I'm sure that a lot of startups in Kerala would love to interact with you. And I think the industry here would also love to interact with you when you're here in Cochin. Thanks a lot for your time, and thanks for your wonderful insights.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.